بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بار محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Let us begin tonight's program with the recitation of Surah Yasin for the Isal Sawab of Marhum brother Amin Haider with the loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخاشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما وقدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم ولا يمسنكم منا عذاب عليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن من ضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شفاعتهم شيء ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كلا لما جامع لدينا محضرون وآية اللهم العرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثماره وما عاملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية اللهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عدا كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سبيق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية اللهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلا حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آيات من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعماه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغول فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لتمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء فنسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره نكسيه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عاملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة إذا هو خاصم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا وناسيا خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
جزاك Jazakallah, Brother Ali. Jazakallah. One more loud salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajhum. I would now like to request Raza Ali Sahab to please come forward for Soza Salam with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil.
بار دیگر صدا ایک روز جناب حسن اور حضرت ایک روز جناب حسن اور حضرت نانا سے بسد شوق یہی کرتے تھے تقریر ہم دونوں گرچہ ہیں قرآن کی تفسیر پر آپ کو منظور سوا کس کی ہے توقیر پر آپ کو منظور سوا کس کی ہے توقیر فرمایا کہ تم مانیے قرآن ہو دونوں فرمایا کہ تم مانیے قرآن ہو واللہ کہ مجھ نانا کی تم جان ہو دونوں ایک روز جناب حسن میں برسیہ شروع کرتا ہوں میرے ذہن میں آپ سے وعدہ جو رہا اس کا خیال کرتے ہوئے سورہ فاتحہ اللہم صلی علی محمد۔ کوئی صاحب اگر ساتھ بیٹھنا چاہتے ہیں نعرہ صلوات فخر ملک و اشرف آدم ہے محمد، فخر ملک و اشرف آدم ہے محمد، اکلیل سر عرش معظم ہے محمد، آقا کے خدا بندے دو عالم ہے محمد، آخر ہے مگر سب سے مقدم ہے محمد، آخر ہے مگر سب سے مقدم ہے محمد، ایسا کوئی محرم نہیں اسرار احد کا، حال اس سے ہے پوشیدہ ازل کا نابود، حال اس سے ہے پوشیدہ ازل کا نابود، پہلی تو مصیبت یہ ہے شاہ دو سرا کی، تھے بطن میں مادر کے والد نے قضا کی، جس دم 6 برس کے ہوئے قدرت سے خدا، مادر نے بھی لی راہ گلستان بقا کی، مادر نے بھی لی راہ گلستان بقا، 2 صدمے ہوئے درد یتیمی کے جگر پر، دادا کے سوا کوئی نہ باقی رہا سر پر، دادا کے سوا کوئی نہ باقی رہا سر، بن باپ کا فرزند کے بن باپ کے فرزند کا تھا پالنا مشکل، دادا رہا ہر امر میں پوتے کا مکافل، جب 8 برس کا ہوا وہ سرور عادل، دادا کو بھی درپیش ہوئی گور کی منزل، پھر راحت و آرام کی صورت کہو کیا تھی، تنہائی کی آفت تھی، یتیمی کی بلا تھی، تنہائی کی آفت تھی، یتیم کرتا تھا فرشتوں کو ندا خالق اکبر، محبوب میرا گرچہ ہے بے والد و مادر، ہر آن حفاظت کے لیے میں تو ہوں سر پر، بھیجو صلوات اور سلام اس پہ مقرر، بھیجو صلوات اور سلام اس پہ مقرر، حاجت ہے محمد کو نہ مادر نہ پدر کی، حاجت ہے محمد کو نہ مادر نہ پدر کی، ہوتی ہے یتیمی سے فزوں قدر گوہر کی، ہوتی ہے یتیمی سے فزوں قدر گوہر، جس وقت ہوا کفر و ضلالت سے جہاں پاک، اور دور ہوا گلشن دین سے خش و خاشاک، رونے کی ہے جا سینے میں ہوتا ہے جگر چاک، بیمار مدینے میں ہوئے سید لون، بیمار مدینے میں ہوئے سید، ایک بار خزاں گئی ہستی کے چمن میں، طاقت نہ رہی بیٹھنے اٹھنے کی بدن میں، طاقت نہ رہی بیٹھنے اٹھنے کی بدن، حیدر کو کبھی دیکھ کے پاس اپنے بلاتے، کس پیار سے داماد کو چھاتی سے لگاتے، پہلو میں کبھی دونوں نواسوں کو بٹھاتے، کچھ سوچ کے منہ چومتے اور اشک بہاتے، کچھ سوچ کے منہ چومتے اور اشک فرماتے تھے دونوں پہ فدا جان محمد، پجمردہ بھی سے ہے یہ ریحان محمد، پجمردہ بھی سے ہے یہ ریحان محمد، سن کر یہ سخن شور ہوا رونے کا برپا، بستر پہ ہوئے راست شہ یثرب و بطحا، نزدیک محمد ملک الموت بھی آیا، فرمان خدا فوج ملائک کو یہ پہنچا، فرمان خدا فوج ملائک کو یہ پہنچا، نزدیک سواری ہے رسول عربی کی، صف باندھ کے تعظیم کرو روح نبی، صف باندھ کے تعظیم کرو روح نبی، سکان سماوات کو وہاں پہنچائیے کام، اور قابض ارواح نے یہاں اپنا کیا کام، بیت الشرف فاطمہ میں پڑ گیا قرآن، کانپ اٹھی زمین ہل گئے مسجد کے در و بام، کانپ اٹھی زمین ہل گئے مسجد کے در و، فریاد گئی عرش طلاق شیر خدا کی، کونین میں غل تھا کہ محمد نے قضا، کونین میں غل تھا کہ محمد نے، فقر ملک و اشرف آدم ہے محمد. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah Raza Ali Sahab. One more loud salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Before I request Sheikh Amin to ascend the member and begin tonight's speech, I would like to request everyone to please recite a Surah Fatiha for the Isal Sawab of Marhum Amin Haidar, son of Manzoor al-Abbas Haidar, and all the Marhumin of the Haidar family. And let us also please include our own Marhumin and the Marhumin of the Ummah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen Rahman Rahim Malik Yawm. I would now like to request Sheikh Amin to please come to the member and request everyone to please move forward so that there's space in the back for the people who will come in later, with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين. My condolences on the shahadat of Imam Ridha salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh this night, that we are remembering him. I do know that there's another riwayat as well of his shahadat. But this one is the one that in, at least where we were, in Qom and Iran and those places is the one that's commemorated. And so tonight what I want to speak about, inshallah, is something that I've said here and there before. I haven't gotten the chance to really open it up too much. We're not going to get a chance to open it up completely tonight either, but just touch on this topic and this question of one of these great scholars, he said once that what Imam al-Ridha did is exactly what Imam Hussein did. The only difference is that Imam al-Ridha did it with his knowledge, Imam Hussein did it with his blood. And so what does this mean exactly? Well, when we look at the story of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, what we find is that he had to give his bay'ah, he had to give his green light to the Banu Umayyah. When you give bay'ah to someone, that means you, whether you like it or not, what do people understand from the bay'ah that you give? That you're okay with that movement, that ideology, that whatever. Banu Umayyah, okay, the first four of the Ashabul Kisa are gone. Only Imam Hussein is left, brothers and sisters. You have to understand, the previous Imams tried their best to change things without bloodshed. Okay? Change things without bloodshed. Even Imam Ali alayhi salam, what happened to him and all the blood that was shed in his time, these were imposed battles on him. Otherwise, he says in Nahj al-Balagha, he says, I wanted to change things. I wanted to take things back to normal. They didn't let me, they imposed all these battles. But before that, during Uthman's time, the second Khalifa, first Khalifa, Imam Ali wasn't doing anything. He could have made noise, he could have, resorted to bloodshed. He didn't. Imam Hassan, it reached the point, and inshallah we'll have an opportunity to talk about this sometime in the future, how the sulh of Imam Hassan, the peace treaty of Imam Hassan, is something along the lines of the peace treaty of Hudaybiyah that the Prophet did, that ended with a greater victory that came after. So the peace treaty of Hudaybiyah, when it happened, some people were upset, namely the second Khalifa. He was upset. And he says, I doubted the Prophet in that moment. Little did he know that this sulh and peace treaty of Hudaybiyah is going to lead to some greater stuff later, which was the fath of Mecca, the conquest of Mecca. The sulh of Imam Hassan, some ulama have pointed this out, it's very nice, something similar. That this sulh, this peace treaty of Imam Hassan was so that Imam Hussein can do what he needs to do when the time comes. Anyway, Imam Hussein is the last one. Here, it looks like the people, Islam is not going to change for the better. And so he can't give his bay'ah to a person like Yazid, obviously, and we all know the story. And so because of that, because he knows if he gives his bay'ah, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, everyone's going to say Imam Hussein was okay with Yazid too. So that shows that Islam was the right Islam. Yeah, and so he has to show with his blood, not with his words, because the previous Imams tried to show it with words, without blood. Didn't work. The people, till today even, they say Imam Hassan was cool with Muawiyah. No, he wasn't cool with Muawiyah. Imam Hussein has to make a statement, and that statement was made on Ashura. Okay. He saved Islam with his blood. In other words, if he hadn't kind of pushed as hard as he could to put this ark and ship of Islam back on its track, even if it meant him and his family being massacred as a result, he sees that this boat is going to go down and fall off the cliff. Okay? Now, Imam al-Ridha, according to what this great alim says, if we're trying to figure out what it is exactly, how is it that he saved it? Well, and he says it's like Imam Hussein. Well, then we have to see that Imam al-Ridha sees that Islam is going in a certain way, and if he doesn't push it back somehow, that this Islam is going to be compromised again. Okay? And so each of these Imams did their part, obviously, but it was interesting that this statement was made by one of these greats that he did what Imam Hussein did. It shows that during Imam Qadim's time, for example, or Imam al-Jawad's time, Imam al-Hadi's time, it's not that Islam is in danger completely, but according to him, it was in danger during the time of Imam al-Ridha, and Imam al-Ridha turns this ship back on its course again. Okay, so for that, we have to understand, and I sometimes compare it to these comic books and these cartoons and stuff, where the villain the greater the superhero. Okay? And so you want to see how great Imam Ali is? Look at his enemy and foe, which is Muawiyah. Muawiyah was big. Okay? The only person who could stand up to him was Imam Ali. That's how great Imam Ali is. You want to look at how great Imam Hussein is? Look at what he stood against. He stood against all of Batil in Yazid and Ubaidullah bin Ziyad. And we want to see who is Imam al-Ridha up against to understand, okay, if he's up against this and he did his job, what a big job he did. Yeah? Who is that? That's none other than, you tell me, who is that? Mamun al-Abbasi. I'm going to read off of one of the most important sources, Wikipedia. And so you see that what is the general notion? Now it's the Arabic and the English, okay? So you can be sure a Shia didn't write this one. If anything, it's a non-Muslim or a Sunni that wrote this. Especially the Arabic, okay? I'm going to read to you. I want you for a moment to remove the name of Mamun in this whole excerpt and put someone else's name on there. Put your husband's name, sisters, okay? And see if this is a person that you feel you would look up to. And you'll see that I personally think that is the case. This is somebody, it doesn't get better than this. Okay? So, I don't know. Instead of Mamun, let's put, I was going to say somebody's name, but never mind. Because it's Mamun, he's a bad guy. But, okay, his name was Abdullah. Okay, Mamun, his real name was Abdullah. We'll just say Abdullah. It says, Abdullah, the future Mamun, was raised by Harun al-Rashid's wife Zubaydah, herself of high Abbasid lineage. Okay? As the granddaughter of the Khalifa Mansur, that was before. As a young prince, Abdullah received a thorough education. Al-Kisa'i tutored him in classical Arabic. Kisa'i is a person that we study. Even in the Hawza, you hear his views on Arabic texts. All right, so he's a big shot. Kisa'i tutored him in classical Arabic. Another person in adab. Another person, he received instruction in music and poetry. He was trained in fiqh by Al-Hasan al-Lu'lu'i, showing particular excellence in the Hanafi school. And in hadith, becoming himself active as a transmitter of hadith. That's awesome. So if you put someone else's name there, so far so good. It's looking good. According to some professor, he says he was distinguished by his love of knowledge, making him the most intellectual caliph of the Abbasid family. You see where we're getting here? Ma'mun is, if you were to point one person out of the whole Abbasid dynasty, you point out Ma'mun. He stands out, he shines. Which accounts for the way in which his caliphate developed. Under the sponsorship of the Khalifa Ma'mun, economic support of the House of Wisdom and scholarship in general was greatly increased. Back then there was a Darul Hikmah, it was called, House of Wisdom, that previous Khalifas had started, but it wasn't a big deal, but it became a big deal during his time. That's where, knowledge was, the House of Wisdom. So he's financially now supporting all of this. Al-Ma'mun, under the tutelage of his father, Harun al-Rashid, memorized the Quran word for word under the eyes of leading religious scholars of the court. So some guys are like Yazid. What do? Remember we said yesterday the word partay? Yeah? They will just go and have a good time in life. Then you have some who, you see, they make the most of it. So Ma'mun, props to you. He's making the most of whatever he can when it comes to the knowledge and all that kind of stuff. Hafiz of Quran. Al-Ma'mun's mistakes were instantly corrected under his teachers. It was a common trait amongst Muslim poets, scientists, and authors to memorize their original texts for public lectures, which were typically done inside a mosque. This practice appeared to be ingrained inside Al-Ma'mun's intellectual capabilities. Right? His love for science was so great that it was said that he preferred scientific texts as the spoils of war. Wow. So while others are trying to conquer lands and take spoils, war spoils, which is wealth and assets, he's after scientific texts. Okay. Think about it. From a person who's not Shia, from that person's perspective, do you see anything negative here? No, it's all good stuff that we're hearing. Abbasid society itself came to understand and appreciate the value of knowledge under him, and support also came from merchants and the military. It was easy for scholars and translators to make a living, and an academic life was indicative of high status in society. It reached the point where if you were a scholar, they looked up to you. Apparently before that it wasn't such a big deal to be a scholar. Now it shows that you're of high status. He was personally involved in the daily life of the House of Wisdom, regularly visiting the scholars, inquiring about their activities. He would also participate in arbitrate academic debates. And then here in the Arabic it says that he had أصدر المأمون برنامجا منهجيا للدراسات الفلكية في أول المراصد. The first of observatories. Yeah? They didn't have moon sighting problems apparently. Observatories in Baghdad, Damascus, these places, yeah, he's behind these things, okay? Wow. Wow. If someone just walked in now and doesn't know who we're talking about, yeah, they'll think we're talking about someone like Khawaja Nasiruddin at-Tusi or somebody, okay? We're talking about Mamun. Yeah, she actually was surprised. One of the sisters had just walked in. We're talking about Mamun here. You see, that's why I said take the name out, put another name there, and you'll be like, wow, this is great. That's why we should be on time in lectures. Okay, if this is Mamun, then Imam Rida's job is to make sure. The same way Imam Hussein had to make sure the people don't see Banu Umayyah as the flag bearers of Islam, because it's easy for that to happen. Till today, they love Muawiyah. I mean, Yazid just went overboard. That's why people are like, yeah, we're not sure about him. But Muawiyah, man, in mainstream non-Shia schools of thought, yeah, you see that he is revered and seen as someone who really, when he died, they were saying that may Allah bless the soul of the one who wahhad al-Muslimin, united the Muslims. Taking shots at Imam Ali, because when Imam Ali came to power, everyone's fighting each other. They're taking shots at Imam Ali. Okay? Wahhad al-Muslimin, united the Muslim ummah. Here also, we have the same issue again. It looks like somebody who is very accomplished and capable is now in charge of things. I don't want to say he's like Yazid necessarily doing anything bad in front of others, but can he be the flag bearer of Islam? No, he can't be. He can't be the flag bearer of Islam. The problem though is that apparently it's going to move in that direction. And because of Ma'mun's love of knowledge, it seems that he loves knowledge for the sake of knowledge. We, inshallah, if we go after knowledge, we go after the knowledge not for the sake of knowledge itself, because it's a means. It's a means to living a religious life and more ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Imams and so on. For him though, yeah, all the doors are opened now. What happens when the doors are open, brothers and sisters? Anything can make its way in. I mean, it says here, it says in the Arabic, أبدى المأمون اهتمامه بجمع تراث الحضارات القديمة وخاصة الحضارة اليونانية. He opened the doors so that the civilization, the Greek heritage and all of that could make its way in as well. Now, obviously, we have philosophy and all of that, and that is also rooted in the Greek tradition and all of that, but there's a difference here. When you open the doors to a lot of things, certain things that we know are detrimental to the deen are going to make their way in. And so here, Imam al-Rida sees that, okay, we have some discussions that are now coming up. There are different things that came up in those times, different theological discussions. If Imam al-Rida doesn't fix things or doesn't make sure things are put in their right place, Ma'mun is the type, he's so awesome from their point of view, that they will see that, okay, the Khalifa did this. The Khalifa is also from Banu Hashim, because he's an Abbasi Khalifa. He's not Banu Umayyah. Yeah? And so, if this is the case, then okay, here we go. Islam, we can get it from him. And God knows. Think about it. After Ma'mun, what if Ma'mun's successor is like a person like Yazid? Then what's going to happen? Another Imam has to be slaughtered, apparently, because there's no other way to show that we're against this Islam, that you are the flag bearer of. And so it seems that Imam al-Rida alayhi salam has to nip this in the bud, but it's going to cost him a lot. Why? Because as you all know, he's forced to migrate from Medina and accept the invitation of Ma'mun to go and become his successor. Now, that's a whole lecture itself. Why did he accept? And how the Shia back then, even when the Imam did something that they didn't understand why he does it, he's doing it, they even had doubts. The same way they had doubts about Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. The same way till today even, some of our brothers and sisters out there sometimes will have doubts regarding some of what the scholars do, because they don't understand what the hikmah and wisdom behind what they're doing is, and so they're like, oh, this person did it because of this, did it because of that. and undermining that person's name. Okay? Imam Ridha alayhi salam, he has to go and he has to leave everybody and go alone to make a statement. And he eventually lost his life there in Mashhad, in Khurasan, in Marv. Anyway, so there are different discussions during the time of this Imam, and he does his part. And of course, this was a platform he had once he's taken to Marv, to Khurasan. This is a platform that he has, and his voice is heard by many. And he starts taking part in these discussions and debates, and Mamun himself wants him to come in and take part in these as well. Because once again, Mamun, it seems like Mamun was like a very liberal person. If he was here today, he would like different colors, if you know what I mean. Because back then he's like, bring in all the flavors, bring in all the ideologies and all of that. But we have this concept in Islam that we're not supposed to open the floodgates to everything out there and then let the people decide what's right and wrong. It's not like that. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. Just reminding us of what I talked about last night as well. Like to say that, my kids are being raised in this country. Let them hear everything. I've heard this from people. Let them hear all the different things. I don't force them to do namaz. Okay? Let them figure out namaz on their own. Well, excuse me, do you let them figure out if they want to go to college on their own or not? Do you let them figure out if they want to play 8 hours of video games or not? Is that how it works? No. I mean, when I know something is good for them, I will push them in that direction, and I will close the accessibility of other walks of life to them. Yeah? So here, what I want to share with all of you is one of those cases where it seems that the Imam, he notices that Israeliyat are making their way into the deen. A person who goes and looks at the ahadith that we have sometimes, regarding different verses of the Quran. I was in another community. We had a little Q&A with the youth. And so I was just asking a question. Do you guys think we've learned the Quran as Shias pretty well? And one of the girls there, she was like, yeah. I was like, okay, this is going to be a long day. It's been a long day. And so I said, all right, how is that? Like, explain. She's like, the Imams have given us hadiths about tafsir of Quran. They don't have, those who are not Shia don't have these hadiths. All right, Bismillah. You want to see what the hadiths say sometimes? Do you have what it takes to be able to refine them and sift through these hadiths to see what's right and wrong? Because let's talk about that if you want to talk about that. Israeliyat, which I'll explain in a minute, have made their way into our hadith corpus as well as they have in the other school of thought. Their sources as well. They've made their way in both of us. Now, what are Israeliyat? Israeliyat refers to those things those stories and narratives of Banu Israel in the Old Testament. When you go look in the Old Testament, you look at a figure like Prophet Sulaiman, you look at a figure like Dawood alayhi salam, and these people, some of them are so problematic. These prophets of Allah, stories of them in the Old Testament, it reaches a point where we have kids here, so I can't say nothing. It's things that blow your mind. A prophet would do this, or a king appointed by God would do this, because they call Dawood and Sulaiman kings. They don't call them prophets. Or other prophets, Lut and these ones, you find that there's stories there about them, and then you find, oh wow, you find a pattern that sometimes some of these approaches to these prophets have made their way in our hadiths. But then when you open up a person like Tabatabai and you read, he's dismissing these hadiths. But Maulana, in the beginning of it, it says, Qala Sadiq. How can I do that? Well, that guy said Qala Sadiq. How do you know? All I know is the content doesn't match with the Quran and what the Quran is saying about Prophet Yusuf, for example. For example, some of you have probably heard this. In the story of Yusuf, we have hadith that when Zulaykha wanted to approach him and approached him and all of that, Prophet Yusuf noticed, and Yusuf they were getting ready to do this haram act, and then he noticed Zulaykha put a covering and a veil on her but, on her idol. Zulaykha had an idol, and she covered its face with a cover, and Yusuf said, what are you doing? He said, I don't want my God to see me when I'm doing something haram. Yusuf's like, oh, wait a minute, my God is greater than your God. What am I doing? This goes against the explicit content of the Quran regarding Yusuf alayhi salam. That innahu min ibadina al-mukhlasin. He's one of our chosen ones that we purified. We purified. He's ma'soom. It goes against that. But guess what? We have hadith for this. I still remember years ago, many years ago, initially when I had gotten introduced to these hadith books of tafsir, I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm just saying there's hadiths in there that have Isra'iliyat in them. And our scholars have done their best to dismiss those. Anyway, this sister was like, we have hadiths. Okay, I was like, Bismillah, go open up the hadiths, we can talk about it later. All right, so one of those things that it seems Imam Ridha noticed is that Isra'iliyat are making their way in. Let me get in the way of this. Let me fight this. This is a good platform. This platform that I have right now with Mamun, I'll use it to the best of my ability till whenever Allah allows. And so what I want to share with all of you today, inshallah, is one of these stories that we have here. If I'm not mistaken, it's in Uyun Akhbar al-Ridha, about how the Imam, he speaks about the infallibility of the prophets. Now, this is a discussion, I will say, infallibility of the prophets, and how we reconcile that with some of the verses of the Quran and the wordings that we have in the Quran in regards to what they've done and all of that. That's another theological discussion we don't need to get into right now. Right now, I just want us to go through these words of this story to see how the Imam, for him, it really matters to him to exonerate and keep away the personality of the prophets of Allah from getting tainted in any way. Because the moment you're able to taint the prophets of God, and you'll see this isn't just a discussion on infallibility of making a mistake or not. We're talking about grave sins. Even if someone says, I don't believe the prophets were infallible, they're not going to commit grave sins, people. Okay? This Imam, he sees that, okay, if we don't stop the problem from the source, and these Isra'iliyat and these understandings and stories make their way into our tradition and are passed on to next generations, there's no way you can stop this anymore. So, with that, inshallah, I want to begin this story. Inshallah, recite salawat ala Muhammad. I was going to take another shot at you guys, but yesterday the water was down, now it's up. I was going to say, you need to also open the water bottle and put it here, so I don't, but it was open. So, okay, it says, there's a very famous companion, Aba Salt, his name is. Those who've watched the movie of Imam al-Ridha, they've seen him, okay, in that movie. Aba Salt, he says that Mamun, he brought Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam and a lot of these other scholars of other religions and Islamic scholars and Yahud and Nasara, Majus, Sabi'in, he brought all of them. And so he said that he had them debate with Imam al-Ridha. We've heard these stories before. They would debate with him and all that, and Imam al-Ridha would shut all of them up and so on. There's this one person that stands up and wants to discuss with Imam al-Ridha, Muhammad bin al-Jahm, his name is. So we'll just call him Ibn al-Jahm. Ibn al-Jahm, he says, what do you believe when it comes to the isma and infallibility of the prophets? Okay? Do you believe in that or not, that they're infallible? He said, Qala na'am, yes, I believe in them, in that. He said, okay, then we have a problem though. In the book of Allah, we will have different verses talking about different prophets of God that seem to indicate that these prophets were not infallible. They were making mistakes, big mistakes sometimes. And so then that's where the whole story begins. He talks about Prophet Adam alayhi salam, talks about Prophet Yunus alayhi salam, Prophet Dawood, Prophet Yusuf, and even our Prophet. He even brings up a verse about our Prophet as well. Okay? And so Imam al-Ridha, he discusses and debates with him and disproves all the points that he's trying to make. All these verses he's trying to use to show that our prophets are not infallible. He disproves them one by one. Okay, so when he reads these verses, the Imam initially, just to get things going, to break the ice, warm things up a little bit, he says, Wayhak, what's wrong with you? Woe unto you. Ittaqillah. وَلَا تَنْسُبْ إِلَىٰ أَنْبِيَاءِ اللَّهِ الْفَوَاحِشِ. He says, how dare you attribute fawahish, grave sins to the prophets. Okay? What you did is, you went to these verses and you understood them based on your own whim and understanding. That's not how we interpret them. And then he goes one by one now. He says, as for Prophet Adam alayhi salam, okay, we're trying to see how Imam Ridha is in employing his knowledge to put this ship of Islam that's slowly drifting away, put it back on track. Before you know it, once Imam Ridha has passed away, Mamun is going to bring others and other scholars. Before you know it, Islam becomes some crazy mix of a lot of different things. He's bringing in everybody. The floodgates are open. And these are the things that they're saying. Israeliyat are making their way in. He says, as for Prophet Adam alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the verse that says, Asa Adamu Rabbahu fagawa. Adam disobeyed his Lord and he went off track. Gawa. He says that what is meant here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wanted to make Adam his hujjah and khalifa on earth. Okay? If He wants to make Adam his khalifa on earth, what took place, where, the story of the fruit and all that, what took place was not in a situation like the situation we have on earth now, where the taklif is there and all of that kind of stuff. And so as a result, if Allah wants to make someone his hujjah on earth, they have to be infallible here on earth when they are living here like everybody else. This thing that took place was somewhere else. Now, depends on how we interpret this. Some might say somewhere else is still on earth, but it's before he was the hujjah and khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe Allah wants to teach him something, train him just like in the story of Prophet Musa. Prophet Musa, before he had the grand responsibility of being prophet of Bani Israel, what did he do? He had to go and talk to somebody by the name of Khidr. Yeah? And he had to learn some things there, a little bit of tawheed there, right? Now, I say learn, whatever, for lack of a better term here. It says he wanted to make him his hujjah and khalifa in his cities and on the face of the earth. لَمْ يَخْلُقْهُ لِلْجَنَّةِ. He didn't create him to be the hujjah there. And so this thing that took place from Adam alayhi salam, it was somewhere else. As I said, you can interpret somewhere else in different ways, even to be on earth, but somewhere else. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَعِسْمَتُهُ تَجِبْ أَن يَكُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. It's wajib for him to be ma'soom. Once he's here amongst the people, that's where it's wajib for him to be ma'soom. And so if he made a mistake or whatever you want to call it, it was before he was the khalifa and hujjah of Allah. So don't say that, he's not infallible because he made this mistake. It's not even applicable here, according to what it says here. He says, and then he goes on, and he ends it with this. He says, once he became the hujjah and khalifa of Allah on the earth, then this verse applies to him. The verse that says, Inna Allah has tafa Adama wa Nuhan wa ala Ibrahim wa ala Imran ala al-alameen. Over there he made the mistake. فَعَصَى آدَمُ رَبَّهُ فَغَوَى. Was it فَغَوَى? It doesn't matter. It's not Ramadan. It's not going to break my fast. Is it فَغَوَى? Yeah, فَغَوَى. It says over there in that situation, we have that verse. But once he becomes the hujjah of Allah, the khalifa of Allah, the chosen one of Allah, and he has to be ma'soom, we have another verse that talks about him and puts him in the same boat as Nuh, no puns intended. Nuh and Ibrahim, Ali Ibrahim and Ali Imran. Inna Allah has tafa, Allah has chosen who? Adam is the first name there. If he's in the same boat as these ones, the isma and infallibility of Ibrahim, everyone knows for sure. Ali Ibrahim, not even Ibrahim himself, Ali Ibrahim, Ali Imran, Nuh. Okay, we don't have any stories about Nuh, any verses that might sound like he made a mistake. So here, the time, the place is different, the Imam is saying. So he says, don't bring these Israeliyat here that Adam was a problem. And the stories, if you watch some of the biblical cartoons and movies of Adam, you're ashamed of being a person who likes Adam even sometimes. أَمَّا قَوْلُهُ وَذَنُّونَ إِذْ ذَهَبَ مُغَاضِبًا. As for Yunus, that the Quran says he left his people while he was mad. فَظَنَّ أَن لَّن نَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ. And he thought that we're not going to be able to overpower him. That's the way the guy translated or understood the verse. This Ibn al-Jahm, he said, look, he went, and the Quran says he thought that we're not going to overpower him. أَلَّن نَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ. We will never be able to overpower him. Guys, naqdira comes from the root of qaf, dal, and ra, correct? But qadar doesn't always mean qudra. And personally, I have an issue. The Knights of Power, we don't have such a thing. I ain't heard no Knights of Power. These are the Knights of Decree, qadar, yes, muqaddarat, these things, right? So yeah, the mistake this guy made, he should have come to some of our Arabic classes. Because naqdira alayh, he's taking it to mean this prophet of God still didn't have the proper understanding that God can overpower him whenever he wants. So فَظَنَّ أَلَّن نَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ. He thought that we'll never be able to overpower him. Yeah? This same person, if you tell him about the Knights of Qadr, he'll probably translate it to Knights of Power. No, it's Knights of Decree, divine decree, taqdeer. Anyway, what does the Imam say here? He says, إِنَّمَا ظَنَّ بِمَعْنَى إِسْتَيْقَنَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ لَن يُضَيِّقَ عَلَيْهِ. ظَنَّ, he thought, the Imam says here, no, it doesn't mean he thought. He was 100% sure. 100% sure what? Not that Allah's not going to overpower him. He was 100% sure. He had come to the conclusion that he has done his job with his people. It's time to go now because azab of Allah is going to probably come. They have not accepted the truth, although the hujjah is finished on them. He was 100% sure that Allah is not going to have a divine decree against him, is not going to hold him accountable anymore, is not going to make it hard on him. أَلَّن يُضَيِّقَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ. Right? He's not going to make it hard on him. He's not going to make it hard. He's not going to hold back from sustaining him and giving him rizq. These things. Qada and qadar, not qudra. And then the Imam, he brings another verse. He says, have you not seen the other verse that says the same wording, but that what is meant by it is this qada and qadar when it comes to our rizq? Which verse is that? The verse that we all know. وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَبْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ. فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ. That their insan, this is how the insan is. The insan is such that when Allah tests them, what they say is, oh my God, yeah, Allah has a problem with me. Allah is kind of trying to hurt me or something. He says, when Allah ibtalahu, when He tests, gives hardship, فَقَدَرَ, and as a result, قَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ means ضَيَّقَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ. He squeezes a little bit the rizq of this person. Squeezes it, makes it a little harder now. So you see the Imam uses other verses to back the understanding of this verse. In other words, he's kind of telling us you can do some little bit of tafsir of Quran through other verses of Quran or use them as support. So that's Yunus alayhi salam. Don't say that this prophet of God didn't have proper tawheed or he felt like God can't overpower him. What are you talking about? Amma Yusuf. وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا. She made for him, Zulaykha made for him, and he made for her, the Quran says. The same exact verb is used. هَمَّ بِهِ هَمَّتْ بِهَا, هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا. And so you're telling me that Yusuf, the same way Zulaykha made for him, Yusuf also made for her. You're trying to say he's not infallible. You see he's trying to commit sin and all of that. He says, no, that's not the case. We have to see what the object of hamma is in these lines. Now, according to this narration here that we're reading off of, it says that the Imam said the object of hamma for her, what did she make for? She made for him is the object, for the haram act. But when it says he made for her, what does the Imam say? It says, hammat bil ma'siyah, she made for ma'siyah and sin. She intended sin. What did he intend and make for? وَهَمَّ يُوسُفْ بِقَتْلِهَا. And then Yusuf, on the other hand, he thought, I'm not going to fall into this sin to the point that I'm willing to take her life so this doesn't happen. And so he intended to do what? To take her life. It says here, in أَجْبَرَتْهُ, if she forces him, لِعِظَمِ مَا تَدَاخَلَهُ, because of how grave such a sin would be. But what did Allah do? فَصَرَفَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ قَتْلَهَا. Allah moved him away from this thought, took it away from him, and also took away from him fahisha, the grave sin as well. Both the thought of doing something at that moment because of the graveness of the sin, at the same time he took the sin away as well. We all know the story. Who's the first person to open the door and see what's going on? The Malik himself. Yeah? Alright, so, and the Imam says, and that's why the verse goes on to say, and a few verses later it says, كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ. We did this, so we do what? Divert from him fahsha, grave sin, and also su'. Su' means something bad, shar. The shar of getting caught in this crime of taking her life. We did this, كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ. The verse could have just said, لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ الْفَحْشَاءَ. We did this so that he doesn't fall into this sin. But it doesn't say that. It says we did this to divert from him two things. Su', the bad that he was going to experience, the hardship he's going to experience, the trouble he's going to get into as a result of this crime of taking her life because she's forcing him. If they're forcing you to do that, oh, it's not my fault anymore, it's your fault. I don't want to do this. It's democracy. Okay? I do what I want to do. All right, so we diverted su' and also fahsha from him, the grave sin. It's interesting how, this hadith is bringing these verses and pointing these little points out in these verses. As for Dawood, and this one's a long one, but we don't have too much time, so I have to just tell you the gist of the story. He says, what about Dawood? What about Dawood? Well, Dawood, the verse, let me bring it up real quick here. It says that Dawood, ظَنَّ دَاوُودَ أَنَّمَا فَتَنَّاهُ. In the story of Dawood, what happens is he makes a mistake when it comes to judging between two people. Turns out two people, they had an argument over something. Turns out this was actually just a test for him. I'll get into the details of that very quickly. Let me read off of this very quickly so that I don't take too much time. Recite salawat, please. It says that about Yusuf, then God changed his mind regarding Dawood alayhi salam. What do the people on your side say about him, he says. Okay, I'm going to go through this very quickly, okay? Read off of it very quickly. This Ibn Jahm, he says, they say that Dawood was in his praying mihrab, when shaitan appeared in front of him in the form of a very beautiful bird. Dawood stopped praying, stood up to go catch the bird. That sounds like my little daughter. Dawood alayhi salam stopped praying, stood up to go catch the bird. The bird left the room and went into the courtyard. Then it flew up on the top of the house. Dawood climbed up to the roof looking for the bird. The bird flew into the house of Uriya bin Hannan. Okay, Uriya was, we'll talk about him in a little bit. Dawood followed the bird with his eyes and suddenly saw Uriya's wife. Okay, and then Disney made a movie out of it after that. Okay, and he fell in love with this person, and this is what shaitan does, he comes to you as a bird. People, don't look at the birds out there, okay? Bird watchers, watch out. Okay? Anyway, you just might end up in Uriya's house, So it says that Dawood, this happened. Now, as a result, he wants to marry her now. But she has a husband, his name is Uriya, and it turns out that this Uriya is one of his commanders in his army, in Dawood's army. So what does Dawood do? He does what any one of us would do. He writes to his commander, place Uriya in front of the army. So if anyone's going to get shot, it's him. And so they put him in the front. Uriya defeated the pagans in this battle, and that was hard on Dawood. So Dawood wrote to the commander again and ordered him to place Uriya ahead of, even more further ahead. And he was placed even ahead and he was killed. Then Dawood married the wife. And then here it says, Ridha alayhi salam hit himself on the forehead and said, from God we are and unto him we return. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. You have ascribed neglecting prayers and going out and looking for the bird's tracks, very grave haram sins, and killing to one of the prophets of God. Ibn Jahm said, O son of the prophet of God, then what was his sin that the Quran talks about? The Imam says, woe be to you. Dawood thought that the honorable, the exalted God had not created anyone more learned than himself. Therefore, the Honorable, the Exalted God sent 2 angels towards him who climbed up the walls of his mihrab where he was. These are angels in the form of now people. They came and they said to him, "Fear not, we are 2 disputants. We have a dispute amongst ourselves. We have a dispute amongst ourselves. One of us has wronged the other. Decide now between us. Be the judge of haqq between us. Treat us not with injustice, but guide us to the even path." What happened? What's wrong? "This man is my brother. He has 99, I forgot the animal it was, na'ja. What is that? Goat? Sheep? Okay, thank you. What are you trying to say, everybody? Everyone said sheep, like trying to make me look like I don't know my stuff. All right. Some of these cahoots that we do, the Sunday school stuff that's up there, I don't know, like 85% of it, by the way. So you can tell which ones were taught back then. That's good, alhamdulillah, our people that remember. I know the Arabic though, so let me see if you beat that. Na'ja, okay? So the Quran says, he said that this one has 99 and I have 1. He has 99 and I have 1, yet he says, "Give her to me. Give that one that you have to me." And is harsh to me in speech. Dawood turned to the one against whom a claim was made and said, "He has undoubtedly wronged you in demanding your sheep to be added to his flock." Yeah? So what happened was, Imam Ridha explains now. Think about it. When someone has 99 and they're trying to get the other one, you're like, how greedy are you, man? Let it go. Like, obviously this one's not yours because you already have so many. The Imam here says, he did not turn to the claimant to ask for any evidence. Okay? Thus, this was a fault in the way he judged, not a fault in the way you think about it, the way you say he ran after this bird and stuff. Where'd that come from? Sesame Street? Thus, this was the fault. Have you ever heard that the Honorable, the Exalted God said, "O Dawood, we did indeed make thee a vicegerent on earth, so judge thou between the people in truth and haqq, nor follow the lusts of thy heart, for they will mislead thee from the path of Allah. For those who wander astray from the path of Allah, there's a penalty for them," and so on. He said, "O son of the Prophet of God, what's the story of Uriah though? Like, I mean, no one could make something like that up. This wife of Uriah and all of that." The Imam explains. And he connects us to our Prophet. That yes, there was a commander. And that was his wife and all of that. Okay? You see, sometimes something happens, the people make a story around that thing that has happened. Yes, eventually Dawood married the wife of Uriah. But it's not because of some bird or something. Okay? It's not that. What happened was that back then there was this rule that they had that if the wife of one of your commanders or whatever, he dies and all that, you can't marry them. Allah wanted to break this. Allah wanted to break this, and so He commanded Dawood, after her husband had died in battle, to marry her. So that this rule, if I got it right, I'm not sure exactly what it was, but this rule that was out there, this can be broken by the Prophet of God. And then the Imam connects it to the story of Zainab bint Jahsh, that the Prophet married, although she was the wife of his adopted son, Zayd, right? But Allah said, you have to marry her. And then some people said some things about the Prophet as well, But Allah wanted to change this rule, and this was such a rule that was set in stone that there was no other way but that the Prophet does this. Yeah. And so here also the Imam al-Ridha connects it to that. There's one more thing about our Prophet I'm going to skip right now because we don't have time, but I want to say, brothers and sisters, Imam al-Ridha, if they say through his knowledge, he saved Islam, is because look, slowly, once Isra'iliyat make their way in, once the prophets are undermined, once the isma of the prophets, then our Prophet also is going to be questioned, Does he know what he's doing? Does he not doing? Maybe he can make mistakes sometimes. Maybe if he appoints somebody to succeed him, it's just something he's saying on the side, things like that. Now, I don't want to necessarily connect it to Wilaya and Ahlul Bayt and Shi'ism. A lot of other things will come out of it as well. Once you see that your prophets, these grand prophets of Allah, are making such mistakes, that's a justification for me and you to relax a little bit as well. Who knows? There's a million things that could come out of Islam being misinterpreted, misrepresented. And so the Imam, he did his part in all of this. Before I end and before we go into Musibah, if I can have a Fatiha for the Isal Sawab of Marhum Aman Haidar, son of Manzur Abbas Haidar, and all the Marhumin of the Haidar family, inshallah, with a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Sallallahu alayka ya Ali ibn Musa ar-Ridha. unlike last night where I said that Imam al-Hassan, he has no one at his grave on the night of his shahada. On the other hand, tonight, if we were in Mashhad right now, if we were in the haram of Imam al-Ridha, you would see the millions that have flocked there to visit Gharib al-Ghuraba, who give everything so that you and I can sit here today. Just like Imam Hussein gave everything so that you and I can sit here today, that we talked about tonight. And so how we long to see him, how we long to pray in his courtyards. Those of you who have been, you know what I'm talking about. And how our scholars, they say, like Tabatabai, that he is the Imam al-Ra'uf, the kind Imam. That Tabatabai says, when you go into his haram, you can feel, although all the Imams are Ra'uf, but the ra'fa and kindness of this Imam is malmus. It's something tangible, you can feel it with Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam. And so there's a reason why we single him out. Of all the children of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And so as we're getting closer and closer, brothers and sisters, to the end of this Muharram and Safar season, 2 months and all these days that we have mourned for his grandfather Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, as we make our way out of this month of Safar with the remembrance of Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam. They say that when Mamun forced the Imam to migrate from Medina to Khurasan, the Imam, he went to the grave of his grandfather several times, just like Imam Hussein did when he's leaving Medina. He weeps and he tells his family, none of you come with me, I'm going alone on this journey. Imam Hussein had to take his family. My job is different though. I don't take anybody. Everyone needs to know that I was against this. And I died in ghurba, all alone, far away from all the other Imams. And so they write that when the time came for Imam al-Ridha to leave this dunya, he was summoned by Mamun, the same one who killed his own brother. Do you think he's going to have mercy on Imam al-Ridha? And so when he's summoned by Mamun, Imam al-Ridha tells Aba Salt, that companion of his, he says, wait for me to return from Mamun. If I return with my cloak over my head, don't speak to me, for I have been poisoned. This is the sign that something bad has happened to me. And so Aba Salt says the Imam went. Think about the anxiety Aba Salt has as he's waiting for Imam al-Ridha to return. This alimu al Muhammad, the one that others refer to as the alim, the grand scholar of al Muhammad, Imam al-Ridha. He says, I sat there looking at the door, hoping the Imam doesn't enter with the cloak over his head. After some time passed, all of a sudden the door opened, and lo and behold, the cloak was drawn over his head. He couldn't walk properly, and he would keep having to sit and maybe even falling. Some accounts, they say that Abu Salt said, I counted up to 50 times the Imam. He keeps getting up, falling, getting up, falling. You see a pattern here. Imam al-Hussein kept getting up and he kept falling in the Qatligah. Imam al-Ridha keeps getting up, he keeps falling. Abu Salt, my liver is burning. What did this poison do to the body of Imam al-Ridha? It says after some time, the Imam, he puts aside the rug in the home, revealing the sand under it. He stuck his abdomen to the sand, probably to cool off the fire that is burning within him. It says as he did this, he was yatamalmalu tamalmul al-salim, like a snake that has been injured, twisting and turning in pain. Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam is twisting and turning in pain. It says as all of this was happening, the Imam kept looking to the door. Some accounts say that Imam al-Jawad eventually came in. Abu Abdullah keeps looking to the tents. As I said last night, Abdullah bin Hassan came. He lost his arm. Here Imam al-Jawad comes. It says that he puts his father's head in his lap, a young Jawad alayhi salam. And so eventually Imam al-Ridha's life departs this dunya. You stuck your body, oh Imam al-Ridha, you stuck it to the cool sand that they say in Karbala. These little children, maybe after Abbas was killed, they see that this sand, some of it is cooler because it's under the shade of the tents. They would stick their little bellies to that sand, so maybe cool off a little bit. If Imam al-Jawad puts your head in his lap, Imam Hussein didn't have it like this. Imam Hussein laid on the hot sand for a long time. No one's willing to kill him. As he looks on to the tents, is anyone going to come to take his head in their lap? No. Oh Sajjad, my living son, if only you could come so I put my head in your lap in the final moments. His vision, they say, keeps going like Abu Abdullah. With every exhale, blood is leaving the body. He feels a heaviness on the chest. Is someone here to put my head in their lap? No. Shimr on the chest of Hussein. No, Hussein, there's no one today to put your head in their lap. You will not have your head in anyone's lap, not today. All Hussein's head will feel on Ashura is the hot tips of the spears in Karbala. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. ماتم الحسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين.
اے غریب الغرباء میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغرباء میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغرباء اے میرے بھائی، اے غریب الغرباء میرے بھائی رضا، رو کے معصوم آئے خم، رو کے معصوم آئے خم، خم سے دیتی ہے صدا، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغرباء اے میرے بھائی رضا، تیرا دیدار نہیں بھائی قسمت میں میری، دے ہواؤں کو ذرا حکم ہے میرے علی، سن لوں آواز تیری، سن لوں آواز تیری، دل بہل جائے میرا، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغرباء اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب دیکھنے آئی ہوں میں قم سے صورت تیری، اے غریب الغرباء دیکھ غربت میری، کوئی بتلاتا نہیں، کوئی بتلاتا نہیں مجھ کو مشہد کا پتہ، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغرباء اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغرباء مجھ پہ جو بیت گئے وہ علم کچھ بھی نہیں، سامنے زینب کے میرے غم کچھ بھی نہیں، میں نہ بازار گئی، میں نہ بازار گئی، نہ چھینی میری ردا، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغرباء اے غریب جب سے پہنچی ہوں میں قم دل ہے قابو میں کہاں غم زدہ نظر شہر کے پیر و جوان دیکھ کر کالے علام دیکھ کر کالے علام دل دہلتا ہے میرا اے میرے بھائی رضا اے غریب الغرباء اے غریب الغرباء ہوں یتیمہ لیکن وہ یتیمہ تو نہیں قیدی بابا کی قسم میں سکینہ تو نہیں جس کے گوہر بیچنے جس کے گوہر بیچنے جس کا دامن بھی جلا اے میرے بھائی رضا اے غریب الغرباء اے میرے بھائی کس جگہ کانٹے چبھے کس جگہ تھک کے گری پوچھو چھالوں سے ذرا کیسے میلوں میں چلی زخم پیروں کے تمہیں زخم پیروں کے تمہیں غم سنائیں گے میرا اے میرے بھائی رضا اے غریب الغرباء اے میرے بھائی رضا اے غریب
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن لا علي ولي الله أشهد أن لا علي حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله صلوات.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وأن عليا ولي الله وأنه حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربي. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. أستغفر الله وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والرضوان في دار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد عليه وآله السلام. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. اللهم صل على Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. O God, I beseech you to grant me that which will ensure your mercy and make certain your forgiveness, will bring me deliverance from hellfire and from every affliction, provide the means of winning admission into paradise, attain your approval in the abode of peace, and be the neighbor of your Prophet Muhammad, peace be to him and to his family. O God, whatever blessing we enjoy comes from you. There is no God but you. I seek your forgiveness and turn to you penitently. Salawat.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. وأن عليا ولي الله وحجة الله صلوات الله عليه. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربي. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
Let us recite the dua for the protection and reappearance of the Imam of our time all together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. O God, be for your representative the proof, son of Al-Hassan. May your blessings be upon him and his forefathers at this moment and at every moment. A guardian, a protector, a leader, a support, a guide and a watchful eye until you have him reside on your earth, be obeyed by all its inhabitants and prosper for a long time. Salawat.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة، السلام على 9 المعصومين من ولد الحسين، السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء ومعين الضعفاء والفقراء، أيها الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.